What's up, everyone? I'm CEO Connolly, and today I wanted to talk about what I've found that keeps me productive when I'm writing or editing. Okay, so first of all, I know I've shown you some of these things, like my little notebook here. So that is basically, I give a rundown of what I've written in that chapter for the day, and then I give a rundown of what I'm going to be writing in the next chapter. So that way I'm already prepared for the next day when I go to write. Everything's fine. And then this is the notebook that I have, which basically has, oops, that one has a name on it. Okay. Let me find one that doesn't have a name on it. Okay. This has the basic schedule here. So this is what my writing schedule is going to look like. I have like basic little notes here. I've got an extra little thing of notes. And then on the back of these pages, I've got 3 things here and then like 2 sections of notes here. So this is basically what keeps me on track to do what I need to do throughout the day. That includes being able to write. So if I need to do, like the dishes or the laundry or something else that has to deal with the, regular house chores and stuff like that, I put that on here. I also put on here like a little workout type thing that I do because I have back issues. So I have to make sure that I'm constantly doing a lot of core workouts to try to keep my back strengthened so I'm not in constant pain all the time. So I put that on here. It's basically that gives me a 3-hour window of sitting down to write 1 chapter. That's all I have to do during the day. And I basically do that specifically because writing 1 chapter a day keeps me from stressing out and getting burnt out. That is how that works. And I do have other tabs in here. Like I have a tab in here that is basically, notes of what I'm getting ready to write and stuff like that. So, and they're different colored pages. So on each colored page is a different book. So I write little notes, and it's basically sometimes when I'm writing, I can think of, ooh, this would be great for later in the book. So I write down that note to make sure that I know, okay, so later this is going to happen. And I want to make sure that I have that already written down. So when I get to that part, I can actually be like, okay, so this is how I'm going to write, because I write linear. Like everything has to be done in a line, chapter 1 through 20. And I only write 20 chapters because that way I feel like, okay, I can write 20 chapters, no big deal. And I don't like to go by like word counts. Like I talked about this in my Nano video, right? I do not participate in NaNoWriMo because I feel like having to sit down and make sure I get 50,000 words written in a month. It's just stressful and hardcore, and then you have to figure out how many words do I have to write each day. So all you're doing is sitting there and focusing on your word count rather than focusing on the actual, aspect of writing. And whether or not that comes out good, or you're just stressed out because you didn't make it, or you're freaking because, oh my God, how many words do I have to come up with tomorrow to make sure that I stay on track and blah, blah, blah. All I have to do is write a chapter. And once that chapter is over, okay, I'm done. Let's get out this. I can write down what I wrote, where I think the story is going. Here's what I'm going to write for tomorrow in tomorrow's chapter, and I'm done. And then I'm like, oh, you know what would be nice, 6 chapters from now? Let me go ahead and write that down too. So I do that. And that's just my whole thing of how I've been able to stay productive, and I've continued to write, and I've gotten 5 books written since August. So and it's nice to know that I have those books there. So it's easier for me to kind of slow down just a little bit. I'm not completely freaking out because, oh my God, I need to write this many words per day. I need to do this per day. I just have to write a chapter. That's it. And it helps me because I'm not feeling stressed. And if I skip a day, whoops, so maybe there was one day I couldn't focus. Okay, fine. I generally tend to write Monday through Friday. That's it. So if you think about it, I only have to write 20 chapters in a month, so I only write Monday through Friday. That's 5 days. That means that I have chapters 1 through 5, 6 through 10, 11 through 15, and then 16 through 20. That's it. 4 weeks, Monday through Friday. And if it turns out when I go to do my editing that I add more chapters in, fine. Maybe I'll add more chapters. I've done that too, where I get to the end of chapter 20 and I will put like a little paragraph in red. So I know that I need to focus on that red and be like, okay, this is what also needs to be added into this story. I've already written it. The whole story's been written. I feel like these things need to be written in. Maybe it'll end up being 25 chapters by the end of it. And that's just how I see it. Like if I look at the books that I have right here sitting in front of me. So City of Disciples. City of Disciples, if I look to see how many chapters are in here, there are 30 chapters. There's 30 chapters in City of Disciples. Okay, great. So I ended up adding another 10. No big deal. No problem. And then I know that this one here, as a matter of fact, okay, so this one's 24. And this one only had 20 chapters when I first, wrote it. And then I ended up adding 4 more because I needed extra stuff. And plus I realized, especially in my editing process, I was like, oh, you know what? This could actually be a whole nother chapter. Cause I don't like my chapters to be too long. If I've got one chapter that's, 6 pages and then another chapter that's 17 pages. Okay. So now I need to figure out where can I do a break so that this can turn into, a couple of other chapters, and I'll do that. And it's mostly because of the fact that I got so into the writing process where I ended up writing more than actually needed to be in there. And, maybe I kept writing for some reason and I added so much. And then it got to the point where it was like, I could have stopped here, but because I wanted to keep writing, I did, which is fine. And I can do that. So that's my whole thing, is all I think is that I need to write 20 chapters for this book. That's all I need to do. If I end up writing one chapter is 17 pages and all the rest of them are like 6, then I know that I'm going to be able to add more chapters later, which is fine. I mean, it's totally up to you how you do it. I'm just telling you how I do it and what's kept me, productive and been able to write a chapter. I've been able to write a book a month, since August. So that's awesome. I had Houston Horror Film Fest in August. And then right after that, I got straight into writing what needed to be written. So I've got, September, October, November, December. And I know that I had started one in August because it was Houston Horror Film Fest was early August. So I already got that down. Plus I had one book. Okay. So I had one book I was going to do as poetry. I'm not really into poetry. So I expanded the little poems that I had and I made them into short stories. And there's only 10 of them. And I'm okay with that. That's all I want. So I was able to give myself 10 days to do those. And that was right before the Thanksgiving break. And then I'm in the process now of writing another book that's going to be done. And I'm still going to have 3 weeks off at the end of the year, starting in the beginning of the year of the next year. I'm going to have 3 weeks off to do nothing because I didn't schedule anything for those 3 weeks. And it's great. It's awesome. I'm able to have, time off throughout the year. So I'm not feeling completely overwhelmed, and it's made it a lot easier to feel productive. Yeah, sure. There's some days where I just don't feel like doing anything at all. I get that. And it happens. But then when you think about it, like, take a Saturday. Maybe you don't schedule anything for Saturday or Sunday. You're having a lazy day around the house. No big deal. You know what? I'm feeling a little productive today. I'm going to go sit down and I'm going to write a chapter. I'm kind of behind, so I have the opportunity to do that. And that's how I stay productive. And I try to make sure that I'm done writing by the time my husband comes home. So anytime from the time that I get up to the time that he tells me, hey, I'm on my way, I have all of that time to actually be able to write. And I generally get up about 7 a.m. anyway. So from 7 a.m. to somewhere, around like 6 p.m., my husband, the store closes at 5, but sometimes he doesn't leave until 6. So I have several hours where I just have to write a chapter and that's it. And I give myself a 3-hour window. And sometimes because I have written it down in here as to where I want to go with the story, it takes me 35 minutes. 35 minutes to write the chapter because I've already written down exactly where I want the story, where I want the next chapter to go. So I know where I'm going with the chapter. So why not just boop, done, 35 minutes. Now I hate doing floors. Okay. I hate sweeping floors. I cannot stand it. That is the one thing that I don't like doing. And it's mostly because, the animals, like hair everywhere, and it's like, ugh. Plus we live out here where there's dirt everywhere. So it gets tracked in the house too. Wiping off the kitchen counters, doing the dishes, no big deal. Doing the laundry, even with the laundry. Okay. So the laundry gets washed dried, folded, and put away all in the same day. But because my husband and I lived in an RV for 3 years, that was exactly how it had to go. The laundry had to be put away the same day because it couldn't sit around. When I lived in my house, forget it. Laundry would get washed and dried in the same day, and then it would just get tossed, and hopefully it would get put away at some point before I had to do it again, but whatever. But because for 3 years we lived in an RV, I got on a straight schedule of constantly doing my laundry. As it comes out of the dryer, I'm folding it up and putting it in the basket. So when I go to take it into the bedroom, it's already ready to be put away. So that all gets done in one day, which is not usually the case, but it is for me because I got into that routine where that's how my laundry is. So I'm able to get that done in the same day, and it doesn't, cause an issue later on. But it's like, I have no problem with that. Wiping down the counters in the kitchen, doing the dishes, anything else that needs to be done around the house, dusting, for crying out loud, so all of that stuff is no big deal. I'll even go in and there's these little ledges on the island in my kitchen. So it's got the legs, and then there's these little ledges around the bottom. I'll even take a Clorox wipe and go around there and wipe all that off. Along my baseboards, you wipe off all it. I have no problem doing that. Wiping the walls down because, I love the walls in here. You just wipe them with the damp rag and it's okay. So anyway, I don't mind doing that. Doing the floors, on the other hand, I hate it. But if it only took me 35 minutes to, write out the chapter and I have all this free time, why not sweep the floor? It's one thing that I don't like doing, but hey, I was able to stay productive. I've got nothing else better to do for the rest of the day because most of my daily chores for the house are, done early in the morning before I sit down to focus on writing. And then I try to make sure to get my workout done and all that other stuff. So I'm able to stay productive because I have all these extra little things put into place and implemented. So I'm able to do that. And I also only write 20 chapters in a book, the first draft. So, it makes it easier on me. The cult series has already been completely edited. It's just, right now, Mutiny of Disciples is with my beta readers. Disbanding of Disciples is ready to go to my beta readers, but they don't get it until March. So that's fine. I have the editing of Roadkill Cafe set on my schedule for next year. I've got the, 2 books getting ready to get published for next year. That's going to happen. I have every month of next year set up to either write or edit everything. And it's funny because my beta readers every 3 months will get a new book to do the beta reader edits on. And then that book actually ends up at the bottom of the pile. So I'll do those beta reader edits when it comes up in my schedule, because after next year, when I publish 2 books, I'm only going to be doing 1 book a year, but I am going to have beta reader edits to do for other books. Plus my editor will already have seen those books and everything and gotten their edits back to me. So then I can go through that. And then when it's time to publish, all I have to do is submit and I'll be done with that. And I'm trying. So far, it's working. So far, it's working. That's all I have to say about that. So far, it's working. So we're hoping for the best. Of course, we'll find out next year if it worked throughout the year. I've only been doing this since August, and it's helping. It's really helping. Being able to have the little things written down, this is what I wrote today. This is where I feel like the story is going. Here's the next chapter. Sometimes I can write down the next 2 chapters and maybe I'll double up the next day because I have 2 chapters. Oh, I know exactly where the story is going. So I can double up on chapters. Maybe I can take an extra day off, whatever. Right. So on my productivity, it's actually really helpful that I get through it just to have the first draft done. So when I go to actually focus and really get the edits done, because my first draft is my shit draft. I really don't care about it. I just want the story out of my head on paper. And it's simple. Once it's on paper, it's so much easier to edit. And and not only that, but if I set it aside and I let it marinate and take time, and then I go back to it and I'm just like, you know what I could do with this and make it so much better? Because I've said this in another video. I have a book in my file cabinet in the very back I will never look at again. And it's because it was the first book I ever actually wrote for publishing. And I wrote it, I edited it. I edited it, I edited it, I rewrote it. I edited it. I had someone look at it. They told me what could be fixed on it. I edited it some more, edited it some more, edited it some more. And then it just got to the point where I was like, I swear to God, if I have to read this story one more fucking time, ugh, you know? And I started getting that way with Forbidden Affair, which was really bad. So that's when I immediately said, editor, please take this, get this away from me. I need you to look this over and tell me what you think. And yes, there were some things that I had to fix on it, but at least that way it was not near me, around me. I wasn't dealing with it, you know? So if I take the time where I write it, it's out, done. I can set it aside, keep going with everything else. I can stay productive because I'm constantly, every month, there's something new. Yeah, I'm going to go back to it at some point to do the edits on it, but it's still going to be new to me because there's so much stuff in between. So I made sure that there's always little things here and there that are new to me. It's just so much better that way. It's easier that way. So I'm not feeling so overwhelmed with having to make sure I get out this much word count, this much word count. Ugh. I've even done a video as to, you know, pay attention to your story, not your word count type of deal. It doesn't matter how big the book is, you know, I mean, look, so in my cult series, I have this one, which is the Disciples' Doctrine. I have City of Disciples. And then I have Shunning of Disciples. And these two books are very visibly different sizes. And of course, you know, this little thing, but this was just like the accompanying novella type of deal, right? It's just to introduce you to the leader. So the thing is that if you get your story out one chapter at a time, relaxed, everything's fine, you know where it's going. Plus, I do a lot of plotting in the beginning. I have the notes thing on my computer. I actually have the title of the book at the top, and then I write down everything that I want that's going to be in that book. And that's exactly how that goes. And it's a lot. When I initially have the idea, it's like, oh, this is how I want it to go. And then maybe it's like 4 sentences. But then when I go to do the plotting, I'm all like, okay, I need to expand on this. So how do I want this to go in each chapter individually? That way, I'm basically already in it. Like I already know what I want to go in each book, if that makes sense, or each chapter, what I want it to go in each chapter. So by the time I go to write it, I'm like, I already got this chapter down. Good. Now, granted, yes, when you go to write it, is it going to go in that order? No, not at all. It's not. But while you're writing it, because you already have that basic idea of what you want to say in the book, you'll get it all in there. It'll happen. You know, just relax. Don't try to, you know, hit specific milestones and really focus and feel like, oh, I got to do it this way. I got to do it this way. I got to do it this way because that's what they do. You don't. Do what works for you. Who gives a shit what anybody else does? I don't care that somebody is, you know, 27 years old and they've got 50 books published. I don't give a shit. Okay, great. So I'm not quite twice your age. Not quite twice the age. But I'm just saying, I'm not going to, you know, cry that some kid published their first book at 16. Okay, great for you. I'm happy. That's awesome. You know, Aragon. That book was published by some 18-year-old kid who just happened to get it in the right hands. And how many movies did he get? I believe there's only one. My whole thing is that you can't compare yourself to other people because there are other people who are able to, you know, get all this stuff out, but it doesn't make them a great writer. Maybe they are a great writer. Maybe they are. Awesome. Great. Good for them. People work at different speeds, I guess. So there are different things that work for, you know, someone that's not going to work for you. There's things that work for other people that don't work for me. I mean, I'm not going to sit here and say that, you know, I'm the best, blah, 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 because I'm doing it this way. No, not at all. This is just what's worked for me. And I'm not saying that you have to try it at all. I'm just telling you what works for me. And that's how I'm able to stay productive on a regular basis. I've been able to, you know, write, edit, get stuff out. No big deal. I managed to do both. I managed to do the edits for both Mutiny of Disciples and Disbanding of Disciples and have them ready for my beta readers in, I think it took me 2 months, because I did one book in 1 month and the second book in the next month. And then I had Houston Horror Film Fest. And then that's when I was like, I got it. I'm done. Great. Awesome. That's all I needed it to do. All I needed was to get them ready for my beta readers so that I could start on my schedule of getting all these books out, because there's no reason for me to go over it again. I mean, I will when I get my beta reader edits back. I have 3 weeks off. I think I have 1 week where I actually have, scheduled to kind of tweak it just a little bit, whatever needs to be. I'll have the computer read it to me during those 3 weeks off. I'm not technically doing anything. It's just reading it out loud to me. I'll find little things where I'll highlight it and be like, oh, things like that. But most of it will come from my beta readers and be like, hey, by the way, you forgot about this. But there was one thing too that I noticed in this one that my beta readers didn't. But at least I noticed it. So that's okay. And I noticed it and I managed to fix it. And then I got my beta reader notes back and then realized they didn't notice it. And I was like, okay. So, I mean, things are going to happen. And of course, with 5 beta readers, the fact that not a single one of them noticed it, it's okay. It's okay. It's only because it was mentioned in like chapter 3 and then it wasn't mentioned again until like chapter 7. So that's the reason why I think it wasn't noticed, is because it wasn't something they were thinking about, but that's okay. And I only noticed it because I do several chapters at a time. When I'm doing the beta reader edits and the last round of edits for me, usually I'm doing 2 to 3 chapters a day. And that's only because I'm just editing. And to me, I think the editing process, okay, I'm not going to say that. The editing process is not easy because sometimes you've already got the story out. But in my case, with the way that I've got everything done, the editing process is kind of easy for me now. I used to freak out and stress about the editing process. The first round of edits, I know I'm going to absolutely lose my mind. That is just how that goes. The first round of edits that I'm going to do when I go to edit these chapters, I'm literally going to lose my mind. I'm going to freak out. Editing is stressful because that's just what happens. But when I do my beta reader edits, it's actually not that bad because I've already gone over it. I've already done my edits. So, and I can double up on chapters every day and it goes out a lot faster. So anyway, that's just my whole thing. I've got several different things that sit around me. I actually have a legal pad. And I use that too, where I just randomly write down things in order of the way that I want it to go while I'm writing. I don't know. I have things everywhere. I have stuff everywhere. I got to write this down. I got to write this down. And the only reason why I'm using the legal pad is because I was in the living room when it all of a sudden popped into my head and I was watching TV. So I wasn't in here with my notebooks. So I had the legal pad though. So yeah, that was it. But anyway, sorry about the last video. My phone storage cut me off and said, hey, by the way, you got to delete some stuff. So the last video didn't get an ending to it, but that's okay. No big deal. I deleted the stuff I needed to. But anyway, that's it. That's all I got for you. I post new videos every Monday and Wednesday. Monday and Thursday. Please make sure to subscribe, like this video, share it. If I get 1,000 subscribers, I will start posting videos of like the audiobook of each one of my books, 1 chapter at a time on Mondays. So that's what I'm looking for. And that's all I got. Some things will work for you, some things won't. What works for me may not work for you, and what works for other people may not work for anybody else. So that's it. I've got my little things here and it's been working for me. And I'm glad that I was able to find a system that worked for me. But that's it. All right, I'll see you in the next one. Okay, bye.